In this video, we'll be going over how to use the milling portion of our automatic toolpath generation model. To do so, we'll be using this part here, which was taken from Fusion's generative design library. You can find it there, or you can find it on the instructions page on our website. We'll be following the flowchart that is also available on the instructions page for reference. So the first thing that is on the flowchart is the add-in on. Now in our case, we already know that it's off because by default, it will start off. And so to do so, to turn it on, we'll be entering the manufacturing workspace. And once we're here, we're going to go to the Utilities tab, and under Add-ins, we're going to select Scripts and Add-ins, and it's going to pop up this window. It'll have two tabs, one for scripts and one for add-ins. So we're going to select the add-in window, and if everything is installed correctly, you should find automatic toolpath generation in this window. If you'd like it to run every time you open Fusion, you could select this box here, Run on Startup, and it will eliminate this step from your future process, but we're going to leave that off for now. And just press Run in this corner here, and that will start the add-in. We know it's on because it'll pop up these two things here. Now the next thing on the flowchart is the view cube correct? So the correct view cube orientation is what Fusion calls Z up. And you'll know if you have that setting turned on if you go to your preferences in your account, and under General you'll see Z up. You can change that if it's not, but if it's already an older document that has Y up, you could have a couple more steps to try to fix, to orient your view cube. So the correct orientation for Z up would have the top face here aligned with the positive Z, and then the front face on the XZ plane. Now you can see our view cube is incorrect in this case. But because we have this document already has the Z up on, we could right click on the view cube and select Reset Front. And now you can see that our view cube has been fixed with the top being aligned with the positive Z and the front face on the XZ plane. If Reset Front doesn't work in your case, what you can do is go to the view that should be the top view, right click and set current view as top. And then do the same with what should be the front face with a right click and set current view as front. So now that we have those two things done, we're ready to begin. So to run the milling portion, we're going to be in the manufacturing workspace, and you can find it under the Utilities tab, which we already have open from before. And so we're going to select automatic milling toolpath generation. So now you'll see that pops up this dialog window with a whole bunch of different options, and now we're going to walk through how to approach this. So the first selection in the dialog is body for manufacturing. This is where you select the body that you'd like to create. It has to be one solid body. So we're going to select our body there. The next portion is number of setups. So this is best done with 2 setups is what we modeled this for, but it can run up to 6 setups if you would like. The next option is setup pairing, which is automatically turned on by default. And the way that setup pairing works is that toolpaths in a subsequent operation will be approached differently than the first. So if we are going to machine this side of the part first and then flip it over and machine the second side, setup pairing will know that this is a second operation, that you already cut so much metal off of your part, and will only cut, it can see how much is left and will only cut what's left. If you turn setup pairing off, it will just approach each new setup individually. So for our case, we're going to leave it on, and we'll continue. So depending on how many setups you have and whether or not you have pairing on will dictate how much is left in your dialog window. For example, if we were to have more, you can see that we have more options pop up for us there. But we're going to state it 2. And so now our next option is to select our first machine side. And what that means is that we're going to select the side that faces up in our CNC machine. And so in this case, we would like to machine this side and to have this be the top face in our machine once we put it in our vise. And so to select that, to have it properly select this face, we're going to choose that we want the front view because we can see that we have the front view here. And so this is the side we want, so we select front view. And because we have setup pairing turned on, our second setup will automatically have the back, this side, be the positive Z in the CNC machine. So we don't have to worry about that. And then the last parts are roughing and finishing passes. So the way that it works is that we have 2 different categories. We have a bunch of different toolpath strategies that we called all put together for roughing, and a bunch of strategies that we all put together for finishing. And you can individually select if you'd like only roughing, you can turn finishing off, you can turn roughing off for each individual setup. But we're going to go ahead and leave them all on. And now that we have everything selected as we would like it to, we are ready to press OK. Upon pressing OK, it will start to run, and this can take some time because it's going to individually populate all the toolpaths and then generate the toolpaths, and then check to see if they're empty, because sometimes toolpaths will return empty because the specific part that you're looking at, the strategy doesn't need to be used. And if it returns empty, it will be deleted. So I'm going to go ahead and press OK. And now you can see it's kind of going to freeze a little bit as it starts thinking. This can take a while, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the video here and then bring it back once everything's been populated. When everything is completed, this window will pop up. It's just letting you know that everything is done, and will also give you the size of the stock that you need. The units on this measurement will be the units that match what the document was originally created in. So just press OK, and it'll take you back to just your regular manufacturing window. Once you've returned back to your regular manufacturing screen, now you can find all the toolpaths that were created. So upon opening setups, you can see both the first and second setup were made because we chose only 2. So if we click on the first setup, we'll see our stock has been created for our part, and it's oriented with Z in the direction that we wanted, and the orientation point was put right in the middle. Now that's the way that all setups will be created, with the WCS origin point in the middle of each face. You can go in and change that yourself by right-clicking on the setup and selecting Edit, and you can change your coordinate system just as you would in a usual setup. But this is where it will automatically be created. So let's close that. So if you open up the setup, if you expand the tab, you'll see that there's now a folder for roughing and a folder for finishing. And if you open each of those, you can see all of the toolpaths that fit under each one. So you can see for roughing, we have a face, a boring operation, and then a 3D adaptive operation. And for finishing, we have a flat, exterior contour, interior contour, and another flat with a smaller tool. So that makes up the entire first operation, and we can see how good of a job that these tools have done. So if we go to check our second setup, we can see that it's been created on the other end, just as a setup pairing should have done. So now we've rotated our part 180 degrees in our machine, and our origin point is once again on the top of our stock in the middle of it. So if you need to change this for your setup, once again, it'll just be a right click and edit, and you will just change that as you usually would. So opening into this, we can find, once again, we have new roughing passes, and this one uses quite a bit more, we can see. And then we also have more finishing passes. And we can tell that by the time that we're doing our last operation, our part is pretty much complete and has been machined, and we have done, so far we've done no additional input, and this is just exactly what's been automated. So some key takeaways here, once you're ready to actually take this to your CNC machine, you'll want to make sure that the tools line up with your tool numbers in your machine. So right now we're running tool 14 and tool 12, and it appears that's the only ones we're using, so we just want to make sure that those tools are actually 14 and 12 in our CNC machine. And another thing to keep in mind is when you're choosing fixturing for your parts, that our model will leave 0.2 of an inch, so it won't ever go lower than 0.2 of an inch. And that'll again be depending, it will ultimately, how far down it goes will depend on your part geometry and the tool geometry for that individual toolpath strategy, but there will always be 0.2 of an inch to be held on by your vise. So once again, this will be available on our website. This exact Fusion 3D file will be available on the instructions page, so you can come and explore some of these ones that we just populated here. And now that you know how to do this, explore it with some of your own parts. And if you have any questions, we have a form on the project page on our website, and also please feel free to leave any questions down in the comments below.